Put that violin down right now before you embarrass yourself in front of everyone." The teacher's voice rang out sharp and cruel. A ripple of laughter swept through the classroom. Some students leaned forward with mocking grins. Others slapped their desks as if already amused by a failure they hadn't even seen, but in the middle of the storm stood a quiet, black boy, no older than 12, clutching his battered violin. His hand shook, his lip trembled, but his eyes carried something no one in that room could see yet. He had lived his life unseen. He sat at the back of the classroom, head bowed, never called on, never praised. When others left with friends, he walked home alone, violin case bumping against his side. To his classmates, he was easy to ignore, or to mock thought the violin wasn't polished like the glossy instruments in the music program. It was secondhand, its varnish dulled, its edges scarred. But to him, it was priceless. It was the last gift his mother could afford before her illness chained her to a bed. She had smiled weakly and whispered, "Play with your heart, son. One day the world will listen." When the music teacher announced voluntary performances, his hand rose hesitantly. The room erupted with disbelief. Him? With that old thing? Someone sneered. The teacher, instead of encouraging, rolled her eyes. "Fine, but don't waste our time, Dot. It wasn't just a performance." For him, this was everything. This was his chance to keep his mother's promise alive. He walked to the front, violin in hand. The room was already buzzing. One boy made screeching noises. Another plugged his ears. Even a teacher whispered, "This should be entertaining." The boy swallowed hard. His heart pounded like a drum. His knuckles whitened around the bow. Every mocking face blurred into one cruel wall. But behind that wall, in his mind, he saw his mother's face. He lifted the violin to his shoulder. The first note cracked, raw and uneven. The room erupted in laughter. Students doubled over, teachers smirked, and someone muttered, "Told you so," but he didn't stop. He drew the bow again. This time the note came out clearer, stronger, steadier. His eyes shut. His hand steadied. And his music began. The melody carried his story. Each trembling note was a word he had never spoken. The loneliness of walking home alone, the ache of going to bed hungry, the sound of his mother coughing through the night. But woven into the sadness was hope, her voice, telling him to rise, to keep playing, to never give in to the laughter of others. His violin wept, it sang, it soared. One by one, the smirks faded. The laughter died. A girl in the front row lowered her gaze, tears welling despite herself. The boy who had made screeching noises earlier sat frozen, his mouth open but silent. Even the teacher stopped whispering. One of them pressed her palm to her chest, as if the sound had pierced through years of her own hardened heart. The classroom was transformed. No longer a stage for mockery, it became a sanctuary. His music painted images in the air, shadows of struggle, glimmers of triumph, the bittersweet bond of a mother and son. For the first time, every student, every teacher, every pair of eyes saw him not as invisible, but unforgettable. The last note lingered in the air, trembling, fragile, and beautiful. It seemed to float forever, holding the entire room hostage in silence. When he lowered the violin, his hand still shaking, he finally opened his eyes. His voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of everything he had endured. "You laughed because you thought I was nothing. But music is my voice. And today, you heard me." The silence broke, not with laughter, but with tears. A teacher dabbed her eyes with trembling fingers. Students shifted uncomfortably, guilt etched across their faces. Some couldn't meet his gaze. Respect replaced ridicule. Awe replaced arrogance. From that moment, they could never again look at him the same way. News of his performance spread beyond the classroom. Teachers who once dismissed him now told others about the boy who made a room cry with nothing but a violin. Students whispered about him with admiration instead of mockery, but for the boy, it wasn't about revenge or recognition. It was about keeping his mother's promise. He had played with his heart. He had spoken through music. And the world had finally listened.